Hello, and welcome to Inner Peace and Better Health, the podcast where we dive into the art of living your best life from inside out. I'm your host, Eric, and today we have an absolute powerhouse joining us. Our guest is Argustic Dunbar, better known as the AD the Kingmaker, a lifestyle coach who's redefining what it means to live with purpose, passion, and power. With $1.4 million dollars made in the tech world and a mission to teach men, and sometimes women, how to create effortless relationships and live life on their terms. AD is here to drop wisdom on self love, self respect, self acceptance, and gratitude. AD believes in unapologetic authenticity, the honor of masculinity, and the power of aligning with who you truly are. So, buckle up because this episode promises to be equal parts thought provoking, inspiring, and refreshingly real. So, you are welcome to our show, AD. It's lovely to have you, and it's an absolute honor to have you on our show.
Thank you, Eric. I'm really looking forward to it. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. So, Edie, you have built a reputation as someone who helps men transform their lives. How do you define self love and why is it often overlooked by men?
So, self-love is self-investment, right? And that means to me doing things that put you in a better position. And this can be small
Yeah.
things like drinking water and staying hydrated, going to the gym, right? Engaging in relationships with people who
Yeah.
treat you well and who respect you, or it could be large things like investing large lump sums of money into yourself, right? Maybe you have a personal project that you want to work on and you know is going to cost, 10 grand to pull it all together and hire all the help that you need. You can go and like get a loan for that, or you can invest that in yourself, right? So self love is simply self investment. It means that someone is doing things that put them in a better position, doing things that make them feel better, right? And again, it could be as small as, making sure your hair stays cut and you stay, looking and feeling good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because when you feel good, you perform well. So that's what I mean when I say self love. I mean self investment. And I think that men often overlook this because they don't truly understand their emotions. And there's some things that I think that women do well, and I think that they
Yeah.
nurture and they cater to themselves and their emotions very well, right? A woman can go through a hard time or a breakup and she will call her friends and her friends will, nourish her back to health. They'll speak positivity into her. They'll say, "Hey, let's get together and have a girls' night. Let's watch movies and eat popcorn." And they will acknowledge that, "Hey, I'm not feeling well emotionally,
Yeah.
and so now I need to do things that get me back to feeling well emotionally." Right? To me, that is self love.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, it's amazing to me how even the small and the mundane things can add to self-love. So,
Yep.
for for men conditioned to associate self-love with weakness, how do you help reframe that mindset?
I don't necessarily know if they. Oh, okay. So I was gonna say I don't know if they associate with weakness, but I think they associate acknowledging that they have emotions or that they are feeling something with weakness, right?
Yeah, right.
Um. So here's how I say it, man. The the most successful people who I know, or the people who I tend to idolize and kind of want to be like, are themselves fully transparently everywhere they go. They don't become a different version of themselves when they're in a room with a certain group of people, right? They don't start to talk differently. They are who they are everywhere they go. For this reason, I freaking love 50 Cent. He's one of my biggest idols. The guy went from a rapper to a television producer to owning a liquor company, and he is mostly him everywhere he goes, right?
Right.
And people will ask him stories and like, hey, how did this come about? And what made you want to do that? And he'll say, man, so and so did this, or they said this. Now I'm pissed off, so I did this, right? That's acknowledging that I have an emotion. I was upset. I was sad.
Yeah,
I was disappointed,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so I think that men tend to think that emotions make them weak, but I also look at it from a very uh, realistic, practical standpoint that we are not thinking creatures. We are feeling creatures. We
Yeah.
all have feelings. Just because you don't acknowledge the fact that you have them does not mean that you have them. And the whole idea of I'm sad or I'm feeling something I rather not feel, therefore I'm weak.
Yeah.
That's not true. That doesn't make sense. You have feelings because biologically speaking, your feelings are meant to help you make decisions. Your feelings is your mind's way of trying to deliver a message to you. And most people just don't understand what the message is, right? And I'll give you an example.
Right.
There's only so many emotions, right? Anger, sadness, excitement, shock. There's only a handful, and then there's a gradient, right? So let's talk about anger. You could be frustrated, you could be angry, you could be pissed off, you could be irate. They're all the same emotion, just at different levels, right? And so what most people don't understand is that anger is the emotion or the sense that something that you value is being threatened. Okay. That's all
Yeah.
it is. It is your body trying to tell you, or your brain trying to tell you something, you perceive something valuable, and that thing is being threatened. And so once you're able to put two and two together and you stop judging yourself, right? That's why I talk a lot about self acceptance, because you can't judge yourself and accept yourself at the same time. It's either or, right? And
Yeah.
so if you can accept the fact that something that you value is being threatened without judging yourself, and you say, for that reason, I'm angry, Arick, is so crazy. The emotion of anger goes away.
Yeah.
It goes away completely, right? Now, if you believe you're in a situation and you're angry and you label the emotion of anger and it doesn't go away, what that means is that you've mislabeled it. You
Yeah.
mistakenly thought you were angry, but you're not, because if you label the emotion and it stays, then you've missed the emotion. Typically, you're sad or you're disappointed or you're hurt, right? A lot of times people are disappointed. What is
Yeah.
disappointment? Disappointment is the sense that you expected something and you got something totally different,
Yeah.
right? You got your hopes up and reality did not meet your expectations. So you're disappointed, right? Now, when you say, hey, I expected A and I got B and therefore I'm disappointed, guess what? The feeling of disappointment goes away, right? It really is that simple.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Wow, it's really interesting to me how just acknowledging what you're feeling and giving it a name can really help solve problems. I mean, that's what you mentioned when you
Yep.
mentioned the example of and
Yep.
I totally believe in it. That's why I believe that whenever someone is going through a turmoil of emotions, that
Mm-hmm.
it says, like, there's this quote. I don't think it's relatable, but I just say it anyway. One of the greatest quotes that I heard when I was at the weakest point of my life was, if you're going through hell, keep going. Because I know that it's not relatable, but I don't know why I just remembered
It comes
that.
to mind. Well,
Yeah.
I feel you, because here's the thing: there doesn't really exist suffering in the real world. Suffering is always in your mind, right? So I think that's what that quote is trying to say. Like, if you're going through hell, really you're going through just life. You're calling it hell because you're in circumstances that you'd rather not be in, but it's just life is all it is, right? And to go back to to give an example of what I was saying earlier, we will see young children, especially young boys, right? Angry, in fights, doing irrational things when they're young, because they don't have the words to describe how they feel, right? So imagine you didn't have a vocabulary yet.
Yeah.
You didn't know words, but you had all these emotions in you, and you didn't know how to describe them. You didn't know how to explain them. You didn't know how to
Yeah.
communicate them, right? You would end up tossing and turning in anger.
Yeah. 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 So to actually give that feeling a name is like is equivalent to putting that feeling into a perspective or aligning that in the right path. Is that what you mean?
I'm saying putting a feeling to something, putting a name to an emotion, is you becoming more aware and understanding of yourself, right? You can either be understanding or you can be judgmental, but you can't
Yeah.
be both, right? And so I think that what I'm saying is being able to label your emotions, being able to go through
Yeah.
um, a difficult event and then label it correctly, um, allows you to accept yourself, right? Um,
Right.
I'll give you a story. I'll give you a story. I did
Oh,
business
sure. Go ahead.
last year with a guy, right? I paid him upwards of $10,000 for a business transaction, right? And the transaction itself went, rather it we did some stuff, and when it was time for me to like collect on my deliverables, it was very, 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 very difficult to get my deliverables, right? And mind you, so this year alone, I spent over $100,000 investing in myself, right? I've never done that before. Okay, this is a first for me. It's been scary, but it's been
Wow.
great, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I would also argue and say that I've never loved myself more, right? I've never invested in myself more, right? And so because it was so difficult to get my deliverables from the guy, I remember thinking like, man, F this dude. I'm upset. I don't like this. And so then I had to sit down and ask myself, okay, am I truly angry, right? What do I value that is being threatened? Well, one, my money was valuable, right? But my money is not being threatened. So that doesn't really make
Yeah.
sense, right? Two, my time is valuable. And I feel as though I'm wasting my time trying to chase this guy down to get my deliverables, right? So I was a little angry, right? Time is my most important asset, right? But then what I realized was, because when people pay me, like some people pay me tens of thousands of dollars to help them get into the tech space, right? And I like to over deliver. When my clients do business with me, they're like, bro, this is amazing. I've never
Yeah.
experienced anything like this. And so I over deliver for my clients, right? And what I was doing was I was putting my expectations on how I do business on this other guy, right? Meanwhile, he may not do business like me, right? So really what it was is I was disappointed. I thought I would get the same kind of luxury experience that I give my clients, but I did not, because that's not his standard. That's my standard. I'm holding him to my standard. And so
Yeah.
really and truly, I'm disappointed, right? So once I was able to write both those things down, I was a bit angry. I was a bit disappointed. Now it goes away. Now I'm back to my happy place again, right?
Yeah.
So that's the power of self-acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. 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 It's really
And
amazing.
I
I
was
love.
really, really upset too. I was really upset. I was bitching and moaning to my wife about it. So like, and it all went away the moment I realized that. So it was weeks of bitching and moaning to my wife to I'm totally at peace with it now.
Yeah.
It's okay. I don't need to put those expectations on someone else.
Yeah. This reminds me of an instance. And I believe so many of us do it unintentionally, and somehow it's related to low self-esteem. So I would really love
Mm,
to tell you this instance where I created a piece of an art, all right, and it was a song basically, and I sent it to my friend. It was unreleased. It had not been released at that time, and I sent it to my friend. However, we decided that we'll both meet in person and then we'll give that.
mm-hmm.
And after that, I was really nervous. Like whenever you are putting a piece of art out there,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
I was very nervous. However,
Mm-hmm.
when we were listening to that song, when we both were listening to that song, and while he was listening to that song, so many things were rushing in my mind. So many things were
Mm-hmm.
going on in my mind. And somehow I believe that it is not nice. And somehow I believe that it is not as good as I think it is. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that somehow he's also thinking the same way. So
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, what I did was that o- I did not know what he was feeling. So I instantly brought down myself to that level. I stooped down that level.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I know this might not be the best piece of art that you must have listened to, or something. You know what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
when you are not expecting that, so you come down to that level, and I believe that's a symptom of low self-esteem. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh, of course, absolutely. What I'm hearing you say is that you created something, you enjoyed it, right? And
Yeah.
you wanted to show it off to a friend
Yeah.
and get their insights on it.
Yeah.
And to some degree, you thought that he didn't like it or he wouldn't like it, right? And
Yeah.
so the issue really comes down to you were seeking approval. You were
Exactly.
seeking for someone else to tell you that, hey, this is good, right?
Yeah.
And I used to do things like that too. And now I'm at the point in my life where I say, look, I enjoy it because I enjoy it. I don't care what anyone else thinks, right?
Yeah.
And you can go look at another artist who I love is Tyler the Creator, right?
Mm.
And he will sometimes make music for others, but his last album is called Chromacopia, and he was like, "No, I just made this music for me. Like I didn't make it to connect with others. I don't care what others think." And he was like, when I started playing it and people liked it, I was like, "Holy shit, they just like my inner thoughts about me and the things that I like." Right.
Mm.
And so I try to put myself in a position where I say, I don't care what anyone thinks. And if even when I do fall short and I do start to care what people think, I stop
Mm.
and I ask myself, what would I do right now, right here in this moment if I did not care what anyone thought?
Yeah.
Right. And I stop seeking approval, which is, it's part of our nature. So it's probably never gonna fully go away. And then, I think it's at least me, I like to seek approval from my mentors. Right.
Yeah.
If you are somewhere where I'm trying to go and I've never been, then I
Mhm.
need your feedback, right? I
Yeah.
need you to tell me, right? Or I expect of you to tell me whether I'm going down the right path or the wrong path and why, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've definitely been there. More times than I like to admit.
So, when you face setbacks or challenges, how do you stay aligned with gratitude and self-respect?
That's a great question. I have a daily ritual that I follow. I believe that what makes a man is his routine, right? Most people what they do is they kind of wake up, they go about their day, and they just let their day happen to them,
Yeah.
right? If they wake up late and they rush to work, now they're in a rushed state. If they, are working on a project and it's coming close to the deadline and they're anxious, they're in an anxious state, right? I don't like any of those feelings. I've learned I make my best decisions from a place of peace, calm, gratitude, joy, excitement. So
Yeah.
those are the feelings that I want. So every morning I wake up and I prime myself to feel those feelings. Every morning I do my breathing exercise, right? I also, side note, I have a community called King's Corner, where it's an exclusive
Yeah.
men's only group where I have all of my products and services. And one of the things I have is called King's Routine. It is my literal routine that I do every day and every week, in and out, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I talk about is my meditation practice and how I choose what feelings that I want. Every morning I wake up and I ask myself, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for? And I write those down, right? What would make today great, right? What am I excited about, right? And by doing that, I'm priming myself to feel the emotions, right? What most people do is they prime themselves to feel anxious, worried, rushed, right? If you know every day you have to be at work by 9 a.m. and you wake up with just enough time to brush your teeth and get out the door, you're practicing putting yourself in a rushed state of being, right? So I practice putting myself in a positive headspace where I'm focused on gratitude, I'm focused on my goals, and that's my particular practice. That's what I like to.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, AD, for being here and helping us learn about your routine, and I'm really grateful for this conversation. I personally really enjoyed it, and just by your voice and by the way that you are speaking, I am so encouraged, honestly, because where I'm located in the world, I am located in India, and right now
Mhm.
it's almost my bedtime, so it's like there's
Oh,
something
okay.
I do at
You
my
got a
bed.
jolt of energy right before bed.
Yeah. So I'm feeling really confident already. So
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this show. And you really have reminded us that self-love, self-respect, self-acceptance, and gratitude aren't just buzzwords. So
Yes.
to our listeners, what's one thing you can do today to show yourself a little more love or gratitude? Start small, but start now. If this conversation resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to Inner Peace Better Health for more inspiring episodes. Remember, your journey to inner peace begins with how you treat yourself. And I'll see you next time. Till then, stay mindful, stay grateful, and stay true to yourself.